Now, I love Halloween, and I'm not talking about just the holiday. I'm talking, even the movies. Now, before I give my thoughts on the movie I'm going to discuss, let me just talk about, obviously, the first Halloween movie. I mean, there are no words I can describe the movie. It is a spectacular film overall. I mean, I recently watched it on TV. Unfortunately, I'm trying to find a way to buy the DVD, but it's impossible to find or at least a decent DVD copy. So, can't get my hands on it quite yet, but I'm still hopeful. But Halloween from 1978, fantastic movie. I cannot recommend it enough. It is one of my favorite holiday horror movies. Like, I mean, it really just encapsulate. Oh my god, I can't speak tonight. It just really captures. God damn. It just really captures the holiday, tone and atmosphere, and just what Halloween is ultimately about. I'd say it's up there with Charlie Brown. Weird comparison, I know, but it's up there with Charlie Brown in terms of just capturing the holiday, you know, feeling overall. And that's not to say that the Halloween franchise is flawless. I really think that Halloween should have just been a one and done movie. But of course, they made sequels and different timelines and reboots and remakes. And I mean, I've looked into most of the movies, and the only Halloween sequels that I've really gotten into are the three movies I'm going to talk about on this channel, and Halloween 2 that came out in the early 80s. And I watched that like once. And I wasn't a big fan of it, personally. I did not think it was a great movie, but, I get why people like it. But, yeah. The other films, I don't care too much about. I really just care about the 1978 movie, and specifically 2018, and I'll get into the reason why. And like I said before, I'm going to be talking about the three Halloween movies that Blumhouse recently released, from Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. All three movies I have seen and even rewatched recently, and I will give my thoughts and opinions on them as the month, continues. And like I said, Halloween 2018 is it's a really good sequel in my honest opinion. I have issues with it. I have quite a bit of issues with it. But there is a lot of stuff here that I really did love, and the fact that John Carpenter returned to do the music, it was almost like his stamp of approval, and I really do appreciate that. And he came back for all three of for the other two movies that are, that I'm going to talk about, that released, and I'll give my thoughts and opinions on the latter movies and, in later videos. But, 2018's Halloween was a really good movie, in my opinion. It was a really good sequel. It just really captures just the spirit of the original, and again, just like with the holiday, it feels like a Halloween type of movie you would watch during the holiday season. So, I'm going to make these videos somewhat quick. This one specifically, it's going to be more praise than criticisms, but I will touch on the criticisms in this movie. Now, in terms of the other movies, because I'm going to be honest here, the other two movies are just focus on the positives in this movie, and I'll get into the negatives in the other movies. Now, jumping into the one of my biggest criticisms is Dr. Sartain. Now, the character isn't bad, but he is just another character that is ultimately, he almost ruins the movie about more than halfway through it, where, spoiler alert, he becomes convinced that Michael is driven by trying to kill Laurie. Now, that's not a bad idea, but he starts to idolize Michael to the point where it's just weird, it's very strange, and he's not a great character overall. You can really tell that this is really just a Donald Pleasance, Dr. Loomis, knockoff, and it's just very weird. But I will say, his death is probably the best death I've seen in a horror movie. Oh boy, the podcasters, they're quite something. The fact that they got hands on Michael Myers' mask, and the cops are completely fine with it, it's evidence, so, sure, you can play around with it, why wouldn't you? And the fact, I'm so glad that they got killed off early on in the movie, but, this movie just offers one of the very strangest themes in any Halloween movie is Michael's mask is basically magical in that he can feel the mask and it's a part of him. Dude, it's a Halloween mask he found in a random shop. It doesn't have magical powers. That's not how masks work. And, they try and hint the fact that Michael Myers is basically supernatural, which I absolutely despise. I mean, Michael Myers is just a human being that kills people. In fact, it's interesting that a lot of people, I will talk about this more in the second movie, but the fact that he's not even considered a serial killer. He probably killed maybe max people 5, I would say. I can't remember the specific body count he left in the 78 movie, but it wasn't a lot. And the fact that they called him a serial killer, he's not a famous person by any means. But I get it, in a small town, it's probably, pretty horrific and probably does ultimately bring in some type of fame that this town rarely gets. But yeah, the podcasters really are just it's just not executed as well as I would have thought. And, obviously they're doing it for money. They're just doing it for the purpose of, hey, let's exploit this absolute tragic event. But you know what? It's set in modern era, and that's pretty much the modern era in a nutshell. We exploit tragedies for our own personal gain, I feel like. But, yeah. There are my thoughts on the matter. Dr. Sartain, like I said, that's my big criticism, really. He does have a gnarly death, but ultimately, he just, oh man, I really cannot believe they tried to do this, where they tried to throw in some type of clever twist, where, he just goes all psycho. He gets, manic, and starts to really go oh, let's reconnect Laurie and Michael. It makes no sense. I mean, Michael can care less about Laurie. I mean, he doesn't really care about Laurie. But, and thankfully in this one, it doesn't seem like he cares about her, and, just kind of moves on. She's just, basically a boulder in his path, and he just has to shove her out of the way, and sees her as another victim. And Laurie, obviously, fantastically played by Jamie Lee, is just, has been preparing for this night. She's the only one that truly follows Michael. Yeah, anyway, that's really the extent of most of my criticisms. A lot of my praise comes from the directing and most of the acting. And even the characters themselves, even the side characters, they feel very lived in. And they get more into this in the second movie, which is probably one of the things I love about this new trilogy, is the fact that they expand on a lot of different characters. And even the babysitters. One in particular. There's a kid named Julian, and, his babysitter, I forgot what her name is, but she gets killed early on. But before all that, and if you've seen the commercial and even the movie, you know that Michael's hiding in the closet and ultimately, kills her, unfortunately. Before all that, they just have this nice relationship that just makes you care about these characters. And they feel realistic. They don't feel like, cringy, forced teen drama. It feels very real in a strange way. But, that's just my humble opinion. But yeah, I'll get into one other thing that I really do like about this film. And this is quite possibly one of my favorite sequences in any type of horror movie, is we get this awesome long shot where you see Michael Myers grab his knife and walk around killing a couple, grabbing his knife, going outside, and killing another person all in one take. It is a fantastic sequence, and just really, it made me just realize, okay, this is a Halloween movie and a sequel to Halloween 1978. Criticisms aside that I've had about it, this is an awesome sequence. And this movie has a lot of cool sequences. I mean, even the opening, intro, it is basically a shot-for-shot remake of the first movie's, introduction with the pumpkin and, the credits coming up. Except the pumpkin this time, just not casually, but, progressively grows. It's a rotted pumpkin at the beginning, but then it just eventually expands and grows and, basically just, comes back to life like the Halloween franchise, and you get the classic iconic Halloween pumpkin, and it's a really cool sequence. There is a lot of cool sequences in this movie, a lot of pretty cool kills. A lot of it is off screen, but a lot of it is gruesome and fun. It's a fun movie. I'm just gonna say it. It's a fun movie. It can be scary for some people, and I'm not gonna lie, there's one sequence I'll get into that really does kind of just build suspense for me, because this movie does get pretty frightening and pretty scary. I'm not gonna deny that. Even the original Halloween movie, I still get scared at times. I'm still scared of Michael Myers. If I see Michael Myers even standing right next to me, I'm running the other direction. My fight or flight, I'm not even going to bother fighting. Even if I did have Keanu Reeves' John Wick fighting skills, I would still run away from Michael Myers because he's that frightening of a character. And again, a lot of sequences in this movie are just well suspenseful, well built up, and just well crafted. This is a really well crafted movie, and it sucks that the other movies don't get into that, but obviously I'm praising this movie for now. Then I'll get into the other two movies that are just absolutely, they're not as good. That's all I'm gonna say at the moment. And one of the sequences that really did genuinely frighten me because of how suspenseful it was, and just the situation in general is pretty scary, is when the podcasters ultimately died. I mean, just the fact that at one point you see Michael walking in the background, and it's very haunting. The fact that he's wearing his, white straitjacket when he was still in the lunacy, I want to say academy, but it's clearly not an academy, excuse me, but it's very haunting. And you just get this really awesome bathroom scene where one of the podcasters is in the bathroom and taking a shit, and Michael walks in and goes to each and every one of the stalls. It is very frightening, very well built up, and it is very, very well done. It is quite possibly one of my favorite scares in the movie. There are a lot of favorite scenes in this movie, specifically the one shot, and obviously a lot of other scenes, but this one is probably my favorite scare. Next to the closet scene, but that ended in like a snap, basically. And even though the fight between Laurie and Michael in the final product is very short and ends basically in a hot second, it is still really cool to see them fight on screen and then ultimately just battle it out. It may be quick, but it's still a really cool and badass sequence. And in the end, Michael dies. Until he doesn't. Yeah, Michael tends to do that a lot in this series. It's kind of annoying. So yeah, this movie's pretty solid. Now in terms of the other two movies, well, that's up for debate. But obviously I have the other two videos uploaded, so go ahead and have at it and watch me be absolutely disappointed. That's about it. Take it easy, everyone. See ya.